You are listening to chartingwealth.com for Friday, the 7th of April, 2017. We see that stocks are up for the day, gold and bonds are down. Let's jump right into SPY, which is the Standard & Poor 500, those 500 big stocks that make up a big chunk of the market. We see the market has been slipping sideways throughout the course of this past week. We, of course, had a weekly vertical crossover last Friday. That was the last Friday of the month of March, and we've seen the market sliding sideways, tending toward down. Of course, we had the two-day PPO, that is the price percent oscillator, crossover going down back on the two-day candle ending on the 14th of March, and then that was followed this past Friday by the weekly vertical crossover going down. We have basically had a spinning top for that two-day candle around that time period, followed by pretty much two more dojis. So what do we see? And we have a red doji is where we are on the 6th at the end of the day on Thursday, the 6th of April. We see that when we look at our weekly chart, we're continuing to move down strongly on the PPO. Our derivative oscillators flipped over to down. We've got a spinning top for the week at this point. That typically means lots of indecision. And of course, our two-day candle continuing to two-day trend line continuing to move down. Derivative oscillators still in the negative. When we zoom in a little tighter intraday, we of course see a huge drop-off on the morning of the 6th, and also that started on the afternoon of the 5th of April, and then sliding sideways throughout the rest of those time periods through Thursday. Bigger drop at the end of the day that sort of recovered on Thursday, so we've got a long wick on the way down. Of course, our 2-hour chart, our 2-hour PPO is still headed down. Derivative oscillator flipped over around 2 o'clock going down. So again, we're portending down just like our big wave, that is the weekly chart tells us. And we of course had that jumping in point at 10:30 a.m. on Monday. So let's continue to move through these charts. What's happening with the Qs, the NASDAQ 100 technology stocks? Folks, we're waiting for that to cross over going down on our PPO for the weekly chart. If we check out the weekly, it's still continuing to weaken even with some upward movement on the weekly candle. We continue just because of the way the price is moving. We see that the PPO, and again, the price percent oscillator, very similar for the MACD for those of you who are familiar with the moving average convergence divergence. Derivative oscillators continuing to lose energy. It will be coming at some point. It does appear that the Qs will be crossing over going down. Has not happened yet. We will continue to watch for that. Of course, the two-day chart, which always portends the dropping over, the crossing over going down. On our biggest chart, the weekly chart, the two-day chart crossed over going down back on the 14th of April. So we'll continue to watch for that. No trade there. Now let's go quickly to TLT. That's the 20-year bond fund. What do we see going on there? Well, of course, we have had all the way back on the week ending the 3rd of February, we had the crossover going up. We then did see bonds move up for a several two-day candles, 3, and then dropped over for a couple, moved up again, and then dropped over hard from the two-day candle ending on the 2nd of March all the way through the 14th of March, and then started shooting up again. We had that two-day vertical crossover going up occur on the 22nd of March, and we've seen movement up since then. Again, these markets are trying to sort out the fact that stocks are losing energy and rolling over, and what of course is the inverse of stocks typically. What do you see? Well, it's usually where the money from the stock market flees. It flees to bonds and it flees to gold. So we still are in a double confirmed up move on TLT. with the weekly chart going up and the 2-day chart going up. We've seen some sideways sliding on that 2-day chart since then. Like we said, for the day, TLT down 0.15%. And as we go and take a look at gold, we also see gold down a little bit for the day, 0.37%. What we're seeing on that 2-day chart on gold is we're seeing it's really just flattened on us, still positive on the derivative oscillator, but let's dig a little bit. And remember, weekly vertical crossover still in effect. That occurred back in late January, and the 2-day vertical crossover occurred on Friday the 24th of March. So we're in a confirmed up move on gold, even though it was down a little bit for the day. Let's check into gold. And again, remember how we keep talking about that 4-hour chart. We keep wanting to see a crossover on that 4-hour chart. Has not happened yet. Has not happened on the 2-day chart either. So we're not calling any jumping into gold, particularly based on where we are on the 4. Now again, we do have prior crossovers going up on that 2-hour chart, but the real prescient chart, as you've heard us talk about for months on end on gold, if you just traded on the 4-hour chart, my friends, you would do magically well on gold, both shorting gold when it crosses over going down on that 4-hour chart and jumping into gold when it crosses over going up. It's just beautiful. Well, it hasn't crossed over going up yet on the 4-hour chart, even though the weekly and even though the 2-day are going up. And again, our job is not to try to make one hard, fast rule that works across the board on everything all the time. What we want to try to do is find the particular things that work on gold, what works best on bonds, what works best on SPY, the Standard & Poor's 500, and what works best on technology stocks, the NASDAQ 100. That's where we are as we come to the end of the week. Don't forget, at the end of the day on Friday, that's when we record our comprehensive review and forecast. We go over those big weekly charts. That's when you fill out your weekly market worksheet. Of course, every other day you fill out your daily market worksheet, which you should have just been filling out as you listen to our podcast today. That's where we are, my friends. That's if you want to supercharge your training and really move ahead in learning to read these charts, because, my friends, it's all about the stock charts. If you can read these stock charts, they give you the ability to actually jump on trends and ride them. Forecasting the market, we bandy that word around a lot. The problem with that word is you can't really forecast what the market's going to do. Nobody can read the future, but you can read trends. And these weekly vertical crossovers are magical in nature. When they occur, there's such a big, powerful wave. They typically move the market in their direction. Sometimes for longer periods than others. Sometimes that movement is over a shorter period of time. Other times it's over a massively long period of time. And when that happens, it's usually huge movements down when you would be in an inverse ETF, or up when you would be in the ETF itself, such as gold, S&P 500, TLT bonds, or the Qs. And folks, that's the trick. Ride the wave, whether it's an up wave or it's a down wave. Or you can just get out when it's a down wave, buy cheap, and ride it up. But my friends, that's what we want to learn. That's why we do these virtual trades and we practice. Perfect practice makes perfect. And that's what we try to do, and we keep it as simple and as successful as we possibly can. We love to hear from you. Chartingwealth.com is the website. If you're not already signed up for our newsletter, man, you need to do that. All you got to do is go to chartingwealth.com, put in your first name, your email address. We will send you every day the videos that we produce reviewing these 4 important ETFs that give you a broad range of what is going on in the markets. We thank you so much for being with us. You're not already signed up for our text service. All you do is take your cell phone and you want to send to 33222 the words Charting Wealth, actually just one word, no space in between charting and wealth. That's our name, of course. Send that to the number 33222 on your cell phone, and you will receive every time we have a weekly vertical crossover. You will be notified that weekend, probably that Friday, so you can be ready at 10:30 the following Monday morning to see if you have a great jumping in point. My friends, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you. Hope you appreciate what we do. God bless. All the best from chartingwealth.com.